Cold intro. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Broman Podcast 143, featuring True Vanguard, streamer, content creator, and gosh darn handsome. Just so gosh darn handsome.
Things are true.
How are you doing today, man?
Fantastic. Yeah, living the dream. What about yourself?
Living. I've just got over a cold.
Fun.
Yeah. Haven't been sick in like 2.5 years, right? Because quarantine.
That's right.
And then, grab a cold. And I was like on the couch all weekend. But bonus, I got to watch the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy on Sudafed. So like that was a win. New experience. Yeah. Embracing the new. But yeah, other than that, things are good. Chat, I'm sure many of you listening are already aware of True Vanguard, but for those of you that aren't aware, or for anyone who doesn't know about you, would you like to give everyone a little intro to who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Hi, I'm True Vanguard. Some people call me TV or Ryan because it is my government name.
Oh man.
But, so I live stream, make content on, I started out on YouTube, then live streamed on Twitch, and then was on Facebook, and now I'm on YouTube doing streaming and VOD content. And so I am in my young 30s, I have a family, and I love what I do. So yeah.
Yeah. I was racking my brain getting ready for today, trying to remember the first time I met you. Because I feel like it had to have been a long time ago at this point.
Yeah. I think the first time you and I met was actually when I had never played with Goth before, but he reached out and he was like, hey, me and some buddies, aka you, Shfifty, T, you guys were gonna do like hide and seek in Destiny 1 on one of the
I remember
maps.
this way back in the day.
Yeah, patrol hide and seek. And I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds fun. That was the first time I met y'all.
That was a good day. I miss hide and seek. That was fun. So you talked about your journey through all these different platforms. So I'd like to know, first of all, like what brought you from place to place each time? Because there's a lot of people out there right now that are looking, they're either starting to make content or they're seeing all of, it's a very dynamic marketplace when it comes to where creators are distributing their content right now. So I would love to know what drove your decisions over the years.
That's a great question. It's been a wild ride. So I guess start at the beginning. The very first platform I was on making content was YouTube. And I didn't even know live streaming was really a thing. I kind of lived under a rock. At the time, I was actually a youth pastor at a church. And a lot of the kids gamed. And I was brand new to it. I didn't know any of these kids. And I wanted to like find a way to have a connection with them.
Yeah.
A language we both understood, and I loved gaming, so I was like, well, here's what I'll do. I'm playing this game Destiny right now, and I think I'm okay at it. So I'll just post some videos of some of my gameplay and like some tips and things to do. I'll put it on YouTube and see if the kids respond well to that. And that's the first content I put out there. And it actually kind of took off. I had a nice little seed community on YouTube at the time, I had a few thousand subscribers. And I was like, okay, this is actually kind of fun. And so it became a side hobby at that time. And I met some new people, and some of them were live streamers. They were like, hey, you should go live sometime on Twitch. And that way your community can interact with you on in a live chat sort of a setting. I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. What's Twitch? Where do I find it? do I have to pay for that? I don't know. So,
how expensive is Twitch?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. And the answer depends. But anyways, I started live streaming because my buddies at the time told me to. And so then I was sort of multi-platform. I did VOD content on YouTube. I did live streaming on Twitch. And this was back in the day. I'm sure you remember this. Back in the day when partnership requirements were kind of steep.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, you don't have 1,000 viewers? Why are you in my inbox? Get out. Go.
Get out of here. And, quit trying to talk to me.
So luckily I hit the ground running on Twitch because I had, by that time, a really nice community on YouTube already established, and they just showed up to support my live stream content. So I got partnered really quickly. Destiny at the time was like really in its prime. D1
Super
was
hot.
popping off. So it's kind of shell shock. You know, it's the kind of instant success that a lot of us Destiny content creators had that no one else had.
Yeah.
Where you go live and you're like, I have 1,000 viewers. We got 1,500 viewers. Is this normal? I guess this is normal. And you know, you then find out a year
Actually,
down the road, a lot of people would kill for that.
Yes.
And we were kind of spoiled with the Destiny community at the time, just the way it popped off of Twitch.
That is, yeah, you know, honestly, to like just take a second and talk about that. That's something I haven't thought about in such a long time, right? Like it really was like a phenomenal bubble, like at the beginning, right? Like it was just, it was so anomalous, like especially, and this is what always tripped me out about Destiny in the beginning is that, you know, coming from Bungie, there were a lot of people that didn't like it because it wasn't Halo. And so like having like it just felt like there were all these reasons why Destiny shouldn't have worked like on social media or on a live streaming platform, but it seemed to exceed all of those things, right? Like usually when stuff gets bad reviews from the in-place community, it doesn't go anywhere. Like try and think of other games that have done that on Twitch. It just doesn't seem to happen. But yeah, like that instant success or that accelerated success that a lot of us felt in the beginning really did set an interesting slant on to our careers. So what did you do following that, right?
Right. So it got to the point where my side hobby was so much more lucrative than my job that it really didn't make sense to keep doing my job. And that's not, I still get that question actually to this day. People are like, oh, you used to be pastor. Did you leave because you hate the church or you hated your job? Like, no, I loved it. I'm still very active in doing volunteer work and stuff like that. I've done like Sunday school teacher stuff for years, and I still love that. But transitioning into doing content creation as a job has really allowed me to have a lifestyle that was previously unobtainable. And frankly, it completely changed the trajectory of our lives as a family unit because we were able to start tackling things like student loans much sooner and just get those out of the way. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but if you go into ministry, paying off student loans is kind of hard because you don't really make money.
No, you're not gonna make money. Yeah, I've intimate knowledge of that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I left. I left seminary with like $85,000 of student loan debt, and there was no prospects to pay it back. Right? Like you're like, oh, I'm just gonna retire, and maybe someone will be nice and pay this off for me.
That always seemed like such a huge disconnect to me.
Yeah, it's weird to get like pay all this money to get an education, and then it's like possible to pay it back. So going from, so you take on this new life trajectory that's like completely changed the direction of things. And then there's like another transition after that, and you move from Twitch to Facebook.
That's correct. So, at the
or
time,
metaverse now. I don't know.
In Meta, yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, I was a little over 100,000-ish followers on Twitch, which felt really comfortable. I had a very consistent viewership there. But the competitive nature of Twitch is intense.
It is. Yes.
It's very intense at that level. It brings a lot of anxieties as well along with it. Taking a day off can feel like taking a month off sometimes, depending on what's happening in the gaming sphere.
Yeah.
At the time, you know, and
especially with a live service game.
Yeah, absolutely. Just feel like you get left behind so fast. So you just, that pressure to grind is sometimes kind of overbearing.
Yeah.
But you know, a mutual friend of ours, Tim Darkness429, was streaming with Facebook, and I was talking with him about his success over there and enjoying that, and some of the pros, the cons. And around that time, I got an offer from Facebook Gaming to come and be a partnered streamer over there. They would pay me a consistent a salary,
the dream,
consistent paycheck every month, regardless of how well I performed. So that really took a lot of the pressure off of the grind. Like, I have to make the most optimized content for growth every day, or I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, you go over to Facebook, you get the paycheck every month, and so you're free to play this game and that game, take some risks, experiment with different settings for your stream and what the content's going to look like, the flavor of the content. Is it comical, lighthearted? Is it intense and competitive? You can play around with those things, and it really alleviates that pressure of when you get to the end of a stream, was it good or bad? If I was on Twitch at the time, that would stick with me throughout the day. But on Facebook, it was a bad stream. Whatever. Okay, we tried something new. It didn't work. Tomorrow we'll try something different. And I really appreciated that. I did that for a year. And then I thought, okay, well, that's probably the end of it. But then they reached out again. They're like, no, we kind of like having you around. Would you like to do another year? I was like, yep. They took good care of us. I live streamed there for 2 years. I came to the end of that those 2 contracted years this past September. And things just worked out so well. It honestly was mind-boggling how well things worked out. But I thought that was going to be the end of it. I was having a little bit of anxiety about going back to that really competitive side of streaming again.
Yeah.
And where am I going to go to? Am I going to go to Twitch? Am I going to go to YouTube? And I decided, I did a little bit of experimentation on both YouTube and Twitch, and had a lot of success with the viewership on both platforms. But the main difference for me was with Twitch, they're highly exclusive.
Yes.
You're not allowed to make live streaming content anywhere else if you want to make money on Twitch, essentially.
That's the truth.
And I was worried about that, because with Twitch, it's like I go back there and my safety net's gone. I don't have that weekly or that monthly income. And so I have to do a bunch of streams to meet the qualifications to become an affiliate. And then I have to do a bunch of streams to meet the qualifications to become a partner. And then I have to submit my application. And who knows, is it going to be a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months? I've heard nightmare stories from people who met the requirements and didn't get partnered for 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm the sole provider for my family. I don't know that I can afford that. But on YouTube, I could stream that day, fully monetize my content. Twitch is going to take a 50-50 split.
Right.
And YouTube's like 75-25. You take 75% of your income right now, today. You don't have to apply. I mean, I was already a partner because I've been making content on YouTube for so long. It was a no-brainer at that point.
Well, I think that the timing with YouTube is also excellent, right? YouTube is really, and they've definitely shown that. I know you were talking about September of last year, but like they've definitely shown all through 2021 that like they're here to play when it comes to live streaming. Like they're not screwing around. Even I think as recently as like a couple weeks ago, Fwiz, the lead there, tweeted out like all of these features that the only thing that I think keeps people on Twitch is like there's a parody of like what they expect, right? And once YouTube and Facebook offer, the same features at parody, or it's like, oh, I can use my emotes here, but I have emotes on this channel. I can gift subs here, I can gift subs here. And all of these things are being added to their deck. It's just it seems like a great time to be on YouTube and not no as doubt. Much on Twitch. You talked about the really competitive nature of Twitch. Do you feel like it's different on YouTube?
It's still live streaming. Some things are the same, but YouTube is very different in the way that discoverability works.
Right.
On Twitch, it really is. If you're not at the top of the directory,
they have
it's tough to find people unless you're actively scrolling down to find smaller communities, which some people do.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But YouTube has an algorithm that has been refined for decades now.
Yeah, truly decades.
So it's so well fleshed out at this point that I see new people every day, and there's no directory. Like you don't say I want to watch Destiny live streams and click on something that pulls up all the people streaming Destiny at the time on YouTube. That's not really how it works.
Yeah.
It just kind of tries to gauge your interest based on what you've interacted with and engaged with in the past. And so a lot of times my streams just show up for people, not because they went out of their way to find it, but because YouTube went out of its way to put it in front of them. And that's the key difference there. And so I really enjoy that aspect of it, that YouTube really does gauge the success of a stream based off of interaction. Not on Twitch, it's a viewer count is the most important thing. How many viewers do you have? On
That's
YouTube,
it's one metric.
On YouTube, it's they gauge interaction. So the rate at which chat is moving. Oh, people are engaging with this content. It's going to take notice of that. How many times people actively hit the like button on the stream? It's going to take notice of that. So if you have 20 viewers and 18 of them like the stream, YouTube's going to say, almost everybody's digging this. Maybe we should get more eyes on it. And so it'll start playing around with that, start suggesting your stream to more people. So that's the key difference there.
Yeah. There's such a huge difference between expecting a user to drive their own discoverability when the default consumer experience on every app is I let the algorithm bring me the content I want, with the exception of Twitter, where people can still like sort by newest, but that's again how they kind of built that platform. But this is actually a place where I feel like Twitch shows its age, because the fact that there hasn't been some sort of platform driven delivery of live streams, like, I don't know how they would do it, right? But, with YouTube or with Facebook as well, like they thread everything together. So eventually, in the algorithm seeking to deliver content, eventually the user gets served something that's like, hey, maybe a live stream? And they're like, oh, I love this. But Twitch doesn't have anything like that to drive you around the site autonomously, right? Yeah. There's the front page carousel, but that's nothing, and that's only for special occasions, right? And it's become incredibly coveted. Do you think that the user experience of being able to have the platform bring content creators to you that you like is going to be a long-term difference maker when it comes to, YouTube versus whoever?
Yeah, I think it definitely can be. YouTube just has so many users. You compare apples to apples, the number of users YouTube has to Twitch.
Yeah.
It's just astronomical. So if they continue that trend, I think it's absolutely going to start mattering. I mean, it's interesting, who is on Twitch that isn't on, that doesn't also have a YouTube account. So they're going to go to YouTube every now and then, and they're going to have content thrown at them and that they might fall in love with. But then on the flip side, there's a lot of people who have YouTube who don't have Twitch. And so that's that imbalance there.
Yeah.
So I think over time, as YouTube continues to refine the features that they offer the viewer and ways that they can interact with that content, I think it's going to start mattering over time. Yeah.
Yeah. You brought out such a good.
Do you hear my dog? Sorry.
Oh, no, not at all. I love the picture of your dog in the background. It's really good.
Oh, no, my dog's barking. My wife had that commission. It's my dog's head painted on the Mandalorian body. So
that's incredible. No, I wonder sometimes, because when we were back in the day when we started streaming, Twitch really was like the dominant player in the space, and everyone was like, oh, nobody can unseat Twitch. And it's interesting because I've heard that comment before about YouTube. I can't remember where it was quoted from, but somebody asked a YouTube employee, are you concerned about Twitch? And they said, why would I be concerned about Twitch when everybody's content ends up on YouTube eventually anyway? So then it just becomes a user conversion problem for YouTube to be like, hey, watch this live, as opposed to download our app, our out of ecosystem experience, and all this other stuff, and then find the people you want on your own. And it's just very 2000 and it's very 2011 internet, which is vintage now and very difficult to say.
I know, right?
So we were talking a little bit beforehand. You know, you've taken this incredible journey where you've taken risks. You've accepted these new frontiers that you have, not just personally, career-wise, for your family trajectory, and then even having like the courage and bravery to be like, oh, I'm going to take these really huge platform move risks and I'm really going to calculate this and I'm going to play this out. You've managed to do all of that while still being a parent every day, all the time. You never stop being a parent. But what is that like? You know, I get that question. I've got that question a lot. I don't have kids, but it's something that people seem to be, they're really interested in. So how do you balance such an always on career with, you know, family time and things like that? Do you have any tips, any tricks, any insight for people who might be like, I don't know how to handle this, you know?
It's there's two things I think that really have helped me. One is finding creative ways to create boundaries for yourself, and then also finding creative ways to create freedom for yourself. And those are two very different intentional things that you do. When it comes to boundaries, I am a full send kind of person. If I'm going to do so, I tend to like fixate. So if I'm going to do something, I go really hard into this one thing and I ignore a lot of other things. And so if I got into this industry before I was married and before I had kids, I probably would have had a very unhealthy balance because I would have been just full sending on this thing. You know, I'd stream longer than I should, more hours than I should. I'd probably neglect friendships and important relationships and physical health and things like that because of the way that I'm wired. But I'm very lucky that I got into this after I was already married, after I was already a father. And, you know, there are certain things that are just non-negotiables for me that the way that I'm wired can't supersede. And being a parent and being a husband, those are two things that qualify there. So I decided early on with my wife is she and I do everything together as a team. All of our decision making do as a team. We created boundaries like these are the hours that I'm willing to work. These are the ones that we don't. And so I've actually been taking weekends off for a long time. And that's been part of that. You know, the kids they go to school or daycare depending on their age, but the weekends it's us and them. So we're going to get creative with the things that we do with them. We want to make sure that every weekend is an opportunity to make memories and make sure the kids know that they're loved and cherished and valued. And then on top of that, we also have structure in the day. Usually 5 p.m. to bedtime for the kids is no work. So we do dinner together and then we do an activity together and then we have wind down time before bed. So everything's pretty structured out in that regard, creating boundaries. So that's one big part of it. Make clear, definable boundaries. The other part of it was how do we make sure that we have the freedom to enjoy those boundaries without stress? And so I think I've had a very different approach to content creation in some regards. I know for a lot of people, it's about, we mentioned this earlier, it's the viewer count. How many viewers am I going to reach? And for me, it's been more about how do I make sure that I can, and this may sound, I hope it doesn't sound vain or anything. But for me, it's more about how do I maximize my monetary potential for the time that I'm investing during these
genius.
Hours. So that I can have that freedom to enjoy the boundaries that we set and not stress during that downtime. Like I can invest in my kids and not have that voice in the back of my head like you should be doing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that means you know, I've been with a couple of different agencies. I've settled on an agency that works well for me. They hustle for me. They fight for my worth and they bring me deals that are sponsored gigs that bring consistent income. So you know, I'm not so worried about monetizing my content in other ways. And then on top of that, we took the Facebook deal. We did a couple of years with them, and now I'm doing my live streaming and VOD content on YouTube. But I have a wife who has a degree in media communications, and now she works with me. And we have another contract with Facebook, but it's not for live streaming, it's for VOD content. And so I write down and take notes during my streams about things that happen, things that might be fun and engaging for viewers. I hand those notes to her. She downloads the stream. She edits it all with, fun editing and makes the videos nice and playful. And that content goes up on Facebook. So we work side by side every day to deliver content that is well monetized. And so we created boundaries. Yeah. We've also created opportunities that give us the freedom to enjoy those boundaries.
I think that the way that you reframed the question about income for yourself is probably one of the smartest things I've ever heard someone say on this podcast. Sometimes adding a variable to an existing problem changes your approach, right? So all the time when people get on and they talk about when they got started, the answer was like, oh, I just did as much as I could. But when you redefine that variable and you ask, why am I doing as much as I can? Okay, it's an income problem. Well, in that case, what if I build a framework where I have 4 hours and I try and make as much money inside of that time period as possible? And by redefining that problem that way, it allowed you to build your channel and protect your boundaries and the freedom that you wanted in your life by making it a different, like making the focus of the problem something other than what's impossible, which is make more hours in the day, right? You can always make more money. You can't make more time. And I think that's brilliant. So you said you take weekends off and you've been doing that for a long time. When did that start for you?
So the weekends completely off really started with my first contracted month on Facebook. Once I sort of shed that really competitive nature of the Twitch streaming at the time and went to a new model where I get paid every month, regardless of how well I compete against my fellow peers. That's when I was able to say, okay, now I have the freedom, because that's it, right? We created the freedom, and now we have the freedom to say, okay, we can afford to take weekends off, and that's good because it also freed up time that was important for me to be taking care of my body, and so getting a lot more consistent with my activity, working out. I picked up some new hobbies. I had the freedom to enjoy new hobbies, which is great too. During these past
fucking
2 years,
wild.
It's just been so fun, dude. Picking up new hobbies and investing in them. Oh, it's great stuff. So,
what are some of the hobbies you picked up? Now I'm curious.
I really love mixology. I love making cocktails with fresh ingredients. So every couple of weeks I'll have to restock. I got to do things like squeezing my fruits and getting my juices and making homemade syrups, like your homemade grenadines and sugar syrups and all that stuff. Keeping all that stuff stocked. And of course my wife likes it because I just bring her drinks sometimes and she's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, is this good?
Yeah, tell me if it's good or not. I don't know. But yeah, it's a blast. I really enjoy that. Also picked up I've always loved kayaking, but I always just rented kayaks, so I didn't do it very often. But there's water everywhere in Michigan. Like there's lakes everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why am I not taking advantage of this? But with the freedom that we created for ourselves and the boundaries we implemented, I had a lot of free time to invest in things like that. So I was like, screw it, I'm buying a kayak. And so 2 to 3 times a week, I'm strapping that thing to the roof and going to a lake and getting some time in on the water.
That's awesome. That's like, I don't know. That's great. It makes me super happy. You don't really hear, usually the talk around the table, right, is, God, I don't have time to do anything anymore. And I don't know what to do now that I've turned my hobby into a career. I don't know how to adopt or pick up other hobbies. So like that just makes my heart really happy. What is it like? 'Cause I know that every marriage dynamic's different and everybody is like, I don't know if I could work or I don't know if we could work together, right? Like everybody always looks at that. And so how is it that, you know, that works out so well for you all? I don't know if I phrased that question perfectly.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question.
How does one find harmony when, you know, the workplace and home are kind of constantly interconnected?
Yeah, well, part of it is that we share the same space, yes, but we're not constantly engaged with each other during the workouts, right? I have to do my live stream. I'm interacting with my viewers and in my community, and she's got headphones on. She's editing all the gameplay and getting that all ready to go up on Facebook. So we're occupying the same space, but we're not actively engaged with each other during all of those times. But like I said, our structure is really important for us, and so we have every night, save for one night a week, every night, six nights a week, we when the kids go down, we have structured time together where it's either just the two of us or the two of us and our two best friends. And so we get about an hour and a half to 2 hours every night before bed where we just enjoy each other's company. And sometimes that's gaming together, sometimes it's watching shows together, sometimes it's just sitting on the couch and browsing through Reddit together and laughing at stupid memes. But it's all very structured. And so we have that time that's just, it's no work, it's just enjoy each other's company and process the day. But we also have our own time that is away from each other. Like I said, I've got my hobbies, she's got hers. And the editing that she does for me doesn't take 8 hours in the day, you know?
Yeah.
So she'll take 2 or 3 hours to do the editing and get those videos ready to go. And then other than that, she can invest in her hobbies and the passions that she has without me, you know, in her space during that time. So.
Yeah, that's good. I think if we had a title for this, it's how to have healthy boundaries in every aspect of your life with True Vanguard. Like I, as somebody who has a mind that prefers being more undisciplined because I have like ADHD and really strong, rigorous structure can just blow apart my whole creative process. Like if I I have some routine, but I need a lot of time that's just open. You know, I always admire people who are like, this is a structure, this is what we have to do. And this might change, you know, if when I have kids, like I understand that there's an enforceable structure from evolution itself and God is there. And he's like, guess what? Like, this is how shit works now. And you're going to wake up when this thing cries and all this other stuff. Yeah. But to be able to have the discipline to set time up like that so consistently and then to just show up. I like to think of discipline as showing up for yourself every day, right? To show up for yourself and to say, I'm important enough to protect this time and to protect this structure. It's always incredibly impressive to me. So to know that, you know, even so far as to prioritizing alone time, separate hobby time together, time on the weekends for your kids, like you guys like the best structure like this. You need to write a book. Because basically what I'm saying is like you need to write a book that's like, hey, do you make content and have a family? Hi, I'm True Vanguard and I'm going to fix that. I'm going to fix all that mess, right? Yeah, I think it's inspiring, man. It is. So we've talked about making content. We talked about, you know, working with your family and things like that. What has it been like to go through such a large portion of your adulthood because I always find this really interesting. You have people who have known nothing but content creation. Like that's it. They started when they were 18. And at this point they could be 28 or 30 years old. And it's the only thing they've ever done is stream on Twitch or make YouTube content. But for people like myself, people like you, there was a career beforehand. So what's it been like to have this totally different block of time in your life where like this was my vocation and now there's this dramatic transition into this new vocation, and to have spent so much time, you know, doing both? What's in there for you? Like what has made that special or unique?
I never regret the work that I did before. I mean, sometimes you think to yourself, man, if I'd gotten into this sooner, where would I be, you know? But I never really regret that time lost because I don't really consider it time lost. I think the time that I spent in my professional career beforehand was really good to prepare me for this kind of work. Um, I learned I learned a lot of patience in ministry work, um,
Ah,
and that was key. I learned how to deal with kids in some of that work, which was really important to me. Before then, I was doing basic skilled trade work, which has also been very important for me because there's been a number of times where I'm like, I don't have to call a plumber. I don't have to call an electrician. This is something that is in my wheelhouse. A lot of it isn't, the more technical stuff, but a lot of it is stuff that I'm like, yeah, I could bang that out. And that's been really helpful too. So yeah, I never consider that as time lost. I think it's time well spent. And it's really helped prepare me for dealing with it. Honestly, having the maturity to deal with all the downsides to having a live community that you have to react to, because some of them are just horrible people sometimes.
yeah,
And you have to have the patience to deal with that, and not let it eat at you.
yeah,
And I think a lot of people really struggle with that. I see a lot of content creators burn out. They're like, I had to unplug for a week. I turned the stream off and walked away, and it took me days to really. And the impact that a living, breathing organism like a live streaming community can have on you, the streamer, is it's a heavy weight sometimes. And I'm very thankful that I'm not going to say I've never been bothered by things people say, because I can be a little defensive by nature, and so I still have to wrestle with those things just like everybody else. But I'm very grateful that I was a grown adult
Yeah.
by the time I had to start dealing with it. I don't envy the people who are not really sure of themselves yet, or maybe they haven't really come into themselves yet, and have to deal with that.
It's tough.
So,
No, yeah, I completely agree there. Like, I definitely haven't always been my most perfect self, but I recognize the parallels of, learning how to manage a community or learning how to manage groups of people or talk to groups of people beforehand, and understanding, like, I can't remember which class I was taking in college, but they show you that bell curve of like adopting technology, or the bell curve of like people's perspectives. And there's always going to be 5% of people that just hate your guts. Like, you're just not there. You're just not their flavor of ice cream that they like. And they are just, they're just not going to like you. And for me, accepting the long road of accepting that, you know what, I'm just not for some folks, and that's okay. Was a big part of me overcoming that hurdle myself, of being like, because you sit there at night, like, trying to figure out how to solve these impossible problems. Like, how am I going to make these? Am I going to make these people happy? And you do things and they don't care, and you're like, what the hell? But having the maturity to step back, and having had other experiences, no matter how bad things got on Twitch, I was always like, it beats like hauling cement around a job site. I greatly prefer this experience to working as a fry cook. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, when I was a waiter, I couldn't tell the customer that they're stupid, but now I can. If somebody says something stupid to me, I'm like, "This is my stream, and you're acting kind of dumb, so you can leave now."
You can
I like having
take a
that
hike.
freedom. Yeah.
It's good to be able to. It's good to be. Yeah. Monitoring and editing your community is a great blessing of the online era. So, yeah. So when it comes to, this is going to be fun. So do you see where you're making all of your content right now? Where do you see you moving your content next? Do you think that, like, okay, I'm here now? Like, I don't think anyone's arguing about YouTube going anywhere.
Right.
But there's constantly new social media platforms popping up, and you have a structure to how you approach things, So when something new shows up, let's say like TikTok, or, during our time in gaming, during our time in the gaming space, Instagram becoming incredibly relevant, right? What sort of strategies do you have, or suggestions would you have for folks that, like, this is how to build some space for new tech or new distribution avenues for yourself?
Yeah, one of the most important things for me is finding ways to um, repurpose content that you're already making
Mm.
easily. So, a lot of people, they think it's all separate things. Like, I have my live stream, and then I need to go and I need to edit a video, and then I need to go and make a TikTok video. It's like, but I may have done something during the live stream that is applicable to the video that I'm already planning on making for my VOD content. But it's also kind of just a funny moment, and maybe it belongs on TikTok, and maybe it also can be a YouTube short. Those that short content is like really a thing right now, and it's
Mm.
definitely worth dipping into. For example, I literally have one of my moderators. I'm completely hands off with this, but sometimes something happens during the stream, and I'm like, that was kind of fun, and I'll just let her know the timestamp when it happened. And
Mm.
then there's a YouTube channel that I have called True Vanguard Clips, and it has, I don't know, like 1,600 subscribers. It's small, but
Mm.
some of those videos, the YouTube algorithm is just so aggressively trying to promote these short moments
Short form,
that
yeah.
some of these videos have 65,000 views, you know, and make $350. And I didn't do anything. I was just live streaming, and I told my moderator the timestamp, hey, this could be fun. And YouTube does all the work, and we can split that profit between me and her.
Mm.
And it's just repurposing content I was already making, and it probably takes her 10 minutes.
Hmm.
And so you just analyzing those trends and knowing what's going on, and what these platforms are, what kind of content they're really trying to push and promote, and capitalizing on that
Yeah.
is really important. I highly recommend people look into YouTube Shorts and just uploading things that are less than a minute long, and seeing where it goes, because the algorithm can just randomly just bless it for
Hmm.
no explicable reason. It just blesses it.
I need to start posting more stuff on YouTube Shorts. I'm making all
Yeah,
this
honestly,
content on TikTok. There's no reason not to.
no, just repurpose it, make it a short. And the shorts also don't affect your VOD algorithm. So a lot of people are worried about this. If
I
I
had
post
heard that they did, but I'm now I'm learning. This is great.
a completely separate
Educate me.
algorithm. So if I could post 2 or 3 shorts a day, and it won't affect how well my VOD content performs, or how
Hmm.
well my stream performs. And that's really nice too.
What's is that? Is it always? I'm going to ask stupid questions now. Has that always been the case, and it was just like misinformation running around about whether or not it was affecting your algorithm, or?
I can't definitively speak to its genesis with YouTube Shorts and what it did, but I can tell you that the first time it was explained to me by somebody at YouTube, it was
That's what
they
matters.
told me it doesn't affect it. And since then, I've been doing YouTube Shorts, and it has not noticeably had any direct impact on how well my VOD content.
So good to know. So you talked earlier. You mentioned it a couple times about getting the time back, moving to Facebook allowed you to try out new things and be more creative. What sort of effect do you feel like that had overall on the content you were making? This ability to take risks and have a day that's a completely, like a bomb, right? Like to say, like, this is either gonna take off like a rocket or it'll be a one-day thing. Like, what
right.
has that freedom brought into your creative process?
A lot of it is diversification of my content, because I was so caught up in the competitive nature of Twitch at the time that I was missing opportunity. And so now that I've decided to do some experimentation, it's put me on different people's radars, and networking is a really important thing in this industry. And so because of that, I've met new in those past 2 years. I met people at Ubisoft and EA, and made some new connections with some agencies, and I've gotten access to games I wasn't going to play, or was slightly interested in, but I wasn't going to touch them because here. Let me give you an easy, solid example.
Perfect.
One time, I decided to get a little bit crazy with the experimentation. This was actually right before I moved to Facebook. But I decided to make a Division 2 video. and really dive into that game. And I was like, why am I doing this? This is going to be stupid because that directory is already saturated and nobody wants to know what I have to say about it because I'm not a Division content creator. I'm a Destiny guy. And I was so hung up on that competitive nature. Like, I have to stream Destiny or else my stream's not going to do well today. But I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just interested in it and I'm going to do it. And I made this Division video. It's now the second most viewed video on my YouTube channel in my life.
Wow.
It generated thousands of dollars of revenue. And that's just a solid example of a time where, you take a risk and it pans out. I think of Mtashed deciding to take a risk with his content where he was like, Genshin Impact, I'm gonna full send, and I'm not gonna look back. I'm just gonna do it. I've built up a little bit of. I've got some savings here, so if something goes wrong, I'm okay. But I'm gonna try something new, and he created freedom for himself by being smart with his money at the time. He created some freedom to do some experimentation, and he ended up, getting, I don't know, like 500,000 subscribers off of his Genshin content, and absolutely blowing up his channel because of it, and seeing numbers both in view count and from a monetary standpoint he never would have seen if he had just stayed in his lane and you never know what thing you make. As long as you really apply yourself to it, you never know what thing you make that is just going to be blessed out there, as some things just are. And there's sometimes you can't even quantify it or qualify it, give a reason to it. It just happens, and it leads you down a completely different trail. So I just decided it was worth taking some of those risks. And sure enough, I've been able to make videos and content on other games that occasionally do get blessed and end up giving me new opportunities to interact with people I never would have met. And that gives me access to future games that those people make. And it's been great.
I love the way you wrote. I love that the Division 2 video, which is like definitely one of the things I like recall about all your content. I was like, yeah, this banging ass Division 2 video was something that came out of an experiment. And one of my favorite quotes from Bob Iger in his masterclass is, whenever something doesn't work, we tend to get really conservative and go back to the things that work, right? Like, oh, I'm going to try this. Ooh, it didn't work. But he has said that a guiding principle for him is that whenever something doesn't work, it's time to get more creative and take an even bigger risk. And when I look back on my career and I look at the times when I was like, no, I'm just going to play it safe. Playing it safe never changed the game. The biggest risk for me was going from being a full-time speedrunner of Borderlands and essentially, and like doing nothing but that for like 18 months to playing Bungie's new MMO RPG FPS game. Much to the chagrin of my primary community, but I had reached the point where I was burned out. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I just need something for a break. And then I'm going to play this beta and nobody's going to watch and blah, blah, blah. And then, enough people showed up and everybody seemed nice enough. And then the game came out and I got absolutely hooked on it. And luckily enough, it went really well. And now, and I would have never. One of the
very first ride-alongs? Were you one of the very first ride-alongs that
I
Bungie
was.
did?
I was one of the first 3 content creators that they brought out to do a reveal. I was the House of Wolves.
That's what it was.
House of Wolves, Prison of Elders reveal. Yeah. Everybody. Right. That was, and I mean that. If you want to talk about a moment that encouraged a tremendous amount of growth for me, it was that moment. That was the first time I was exposed to, hundreds of thousands of people on the internet the first time, and something that was outside of my control, the level of my microphone, caused people to really not like me. And that was really hard because I had spent so much time in my life trying to make sure that I was a likable guy. But I was also reining myself in that way, right? Like, oh, I'm always going to be agreeable, or I'm always going to be nice. And because of that, people will get along with me. And then I have this moment that's supposed to be like this transcendent moment in my life. And there's all these people that are like, I'm never buying a video game again, and it's your fault. And I'm like, holy shit, what did I do? And it took me a long time to unpack that experience. But yeah, being one of the first people on the Bungie stream, that's not something you could have told speedrunning Ben that it was going to happen, right? Like, you couldn't go back in time and say, look, man, people are not going to remember this part of your career the way that they're going to remember the next part of your career.
That's right.
And I think that as content creators, we have to always be willing to take that risk, or at least be open to that change. Because when you stop moving through, the space, like you said, networking is so important. Opening up yourself and playing different games and getting out there is such a key part of building not just your brand, but like awareness about what it is and who you are and what you do, and that you're somebody who's here for the long haul. You're here to work with multiple developers, right? Like, not just one game. But none of that happens if you constantly go back to what works, because eventually it won't.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Right. Sorry, just help me. Like, yeah, it just really helped me talk through a whole bunch of stuff there. Wow.
Yeah,
this guy.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah. So what is it? I'm super curious. What do your kids think about what you do? Do you talk? Like, do they know about it yet? Like, is it like a, hey, daddy, what do you do kind of conversation? Or
I can tell you there have been more than one time where my wife has said, you can't just spend your whole day on that video game, Grady. And he's like, Dad does it. Yeah. That's what Dad does when I'm at school. He's out there playing games all day. That's kind of funny. But yeah, my son's not really grasped, I think, the visibility of it all. I mean, he's 7 going on 8, and he doesn't quite understand that there's at least a notable amount of people who watch my stuff. And he just knows that Dad's good at video games, and he'll watch my videos on YouTube every now and then. He thinks they're pretty cool, and he thinks it's pretty neat. But yeah, it'll be an interesting dynamic to see how that continues to play out as he gets older. But he loves gaming, and that's great. He plays Destiny and Minecraft, and he loves all that stuff. But my daughter she's too young to really grasp what it means. I mean, she knows that people are watching. Like, she'll come down here sometimes when I'm streaming and say hi to people and try to interact. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how that continues to develop.
I love kids. Yeah, you have answered every question I've asked you with such clarity and totality that I've run out, which is this has never happened previously on the podcast. So, yeah, I don't really know what to do. we could wrap it up here if you'd like. Or if you have anything that you wanted, anything that you'd love to just sort of get out into the universe, we could talk about that for the next 10 minutes, or we can just go take a nap. I don't know.
I think just kind of the theme of the conversation today really has been about having balance in your life. I think that's really the key takeaway. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned in this industry, and I think something I wouldn't have developed as well without it. It kind of forced my hand, being in this kind of work, because I'm not naturally wired to be a very disciplined person, be a very structured person. My wife is, and that's been a key driving point there. But if I could leave people with anything, I'd say that it's important for you to honestly make a list of the things that are important to you. Your career is probably one of those. A meaningful relationship or two should be on that list. Your personal hobbies and your health. Those are all things that I think are really important for every human being. Is to have a clear purpose for the work that you do, to have meaningful relationships that you invest in regularly, that you don't let slip, to take care of your body, and to figure out what it is that you just love to do when no one's around, or maybe people are around, doesn't really matter, but finds a hobby that just really clicks with you. And as long as you you find a good way to keep all of those things in balance, I think you're going to find a degree of content and joy that was previously unobtainable. I've never been happier in my life than I have been in these past few years. Um, and that doesn't mean that these past few years haven't had ups and downs. I think everybody's experienced plenty of ups and downs in these past few years. It's been a crazy few years for everybody. But when you have those things in balance, your capacity to take on new challenges reaches levels that were probably outside of your reach before then.
Yeah, I think, I think you've highlighted everything you just said highlights something that I have been told at one point in my journey of streaming that you need to ignore to make it, right? You got to stop. Well, you can worry about your health in a little while. Like you can worry about your friends and family in a little while. You can worry about, like they're going to understand if you just focus on this. But back to your point, it's very true. And I found it to be very true in my life that when you let all the rest of that stuff slip, there isn't really anything there, right? You end up at the bottom of the, well, why am I doing this hole, right?
Yeah,
like if I don't have all of these things, if I don't even know what I like to do outside of streaming, then what am I doing? Like, what am I going to do later? What is next?
That's right.
And so I just want to say personally, thank you for coming on and having, lived such an excellent example of protecting personal time and having this rigorous defense of the things that you value with your time. I think it is an incredible example of what happens when you can take care of yourself, right? It doesn't fall apart. In fact, it can empower you to make yourself and the content that you make better and happier than it has been before. So, if you're listening and you've been listening to this podcast since the first episode and you're like, man, I really wish there was a great 2021 example of how to make this streaming thing work. You just listened to it. So you should probably go back and listen again. To the Broman podcast episode 143 with True Vanguard. You kind of already did your outro, but I'll ask one more time. Is there anything that you want to promote? Anything that you've got going on right now you want people to be tuning in for? Definitely let them know when you're streaming, because I think they need to know all of that stuff. But yeah, the floor is yours to promote away.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me on the show. It's been a genuine pleasure to be able to interact with you and your community. But yeah, so I stream on YouTube just under the name True Vanguard. And I stream 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time every weekday. And then after those hours, I'm working on VOD content for both the same channel and also for Facebook. But yeah, one of the things this will be the one selfish thing I say.
Yeah,
I'm really close to 100,000 followers on Twitter. I'm trying to get that.
Get this man 100,000.
Just trying to get up over that hump, So I've been trying to post like a bunch of clips and stuff there, trying to encourage a little bit more growth there. But yeah, I appreciate it.
Make the Twitter happen. And I'm Professor Broman. You can type it into any search box. You probably already know that because you're here listening to the podcast. But if not, I stream video games too. You can find me on Twitch. I'm noon to 4 every day. And if you're looking for any other podcasts, you could look through our catalog. But the big thing that I would like for you to do is, if this podcast made you think of somebody in your life, and I'm very positive that it has, I would love for you to share it with them, because if you have a person in your life that's a content creator, this is a podcast that they need to hear. So please do that. And from myself and True Vanguard, I will say goodbye, everyone, and we hope you have an excellent evening. Bye-bye.